I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast. So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, it's Christian Chavarria. Christian is the founder of the Creatives Factory, a full-service artist development and production hub in Dallas. He's also the executive director of the Downtown Arts and Music Festival. We talk about his journey, from starting in voice lessons and songwriting to building platforms that give local talent the tools and infrastructure to operate at a major market level. I know you're going to like it. Here it is. The Dallas Famous Podcast is supported by the Mullen & Mullen Music Project. The Music Project was created by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm to champion the independent music scene in North Texas. Welcome back to the Dallas Famous Podcast. I'm sitting here at the Deep Ellum Community Center. I've got Christian Chavarria with me.
Yes.
You are, what are you? You're a producer, you're an artist, you're a promoter, when people ask you, what do you say?
I think throughout the journey, I've just, at this point, the best answer is I'm just in the music industry.
Okay.
I've started from voice lessons. I was a vocal coach, and then it ended up, songwriting coach, and then a producer that writes with your songwriters. And then I studied a lot more of the music business, and at the end, it turns out to you're doing a lot of networking and just the opportunity to expand, not for you only, but for the business that you're, birthing, because that's what happened to me. We started, Jonathan Camacho and I, with C Factory Productions back in 2000 at my apartment.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, I had a bunch of recording, Pro Tools, rigs and microphones, and we were recording his band. And eventually we said, let's target some key artists in the city at that moment and bring them and record them. And before we knew it, we had a friend that had a building, or had a facility in a building that SMU owned, I guess, but it wasn't on SMU campus. It was like on Dyer Street where all the bars are. Mm. And they told us, hey, we're going to eventually, tear this down. But for now, if you want to rent something for $200, why not? And so we went from annoying my neighbors to a place where, we can work here. And they actually gave us 2 rooms for $200. They were like, yeah, just
wow.
Use the other room, because it was kind of like in a corner. And we operated there for a couple of years, and social media started emerging. So I started doing some whack recordings with my phone, and you put the speaker and pull it out, and of our productions. And through that, we got, people said, oh, you guys do Latin well, or you guys do production well. So the production company went and expanded and got some, I guess we'd say mentorship through another company. The company at that time was called Breed. And Breed basically taught us how to do sync. So we were commissioned to do 2 Latin albums in 2 weeks. And we pulled it off because we had a network of singers. And they were very pleased. And then they said, okay, this is how you do the paperwork. Then filled it out. And then we started getting, syncs through Universal and getting royalties. And it was like, wow, this is pretty cool. We'd like to do more of this. And so we dove in a little bit more on the business side. So as we were expanding, we were learning how people in LA do business, for real. Mm-hmm. And I come to realize that in Dallas, we don't really do much of that. It's we record. And a lot of the times that, Desi brings me here to the Deep Ellum Foundation and Deep Ellum Community Center to speak is because we resonated, and I've told him, this is, if you don't do this, this will happen. He's like, it already happened to me. And it's well, this is how you avoid it. And he's like, can you just come and speak to the artists and they can learn? I was like, that's what we do all day long. It's I can do that in my sleep. And so he invites me every single time to talk about some facet of what we do. But at this point, I studied jazz. And no one taught me the business. I had to get mentors and listen to people that did not just music business, but just business in general, because it's basically the same thing. You know, every business component needs a marketing. You need to pay taxes. You need to do all the, the basic stuff. And as I got different mentors, I was like, okay, I see the fine line, that the thread that goes across all of it. Now I need music business mentors. And as we expanded to Los Angeles and Nashville and New York and just different situations, I just grew in that network and got cool things like Kids Buck, or, teaching kids that eventually got into big places. But if you ask me, what do? I still do voice lessons. I still do one-on-ones. I've really reserved that for artists that really want to be artists. In our company, we have people that come, or young kids that come, but they're like in choir, or I want to be in my church thing. And it's like, okay, that's cool. We have other artist developers for that. But I take on artists that are serious, and a lot of them learn that they want to be artists when they're 15, 16. So I'm like, okay, this is a good time. Let me work with mom and dad and work with them to really get them going, because, it's an advantage to know when you know early what you want to do, to get, a jump on that.
Right.
So I still do a voice lesson. I'll still do a songwriting lesson, but at the grand scheme of things, it's like we'll sit there and talk, okay, now that we've done 2 or 3 songs, this is how you register them. Let's walk them through and let's do it together, because eventually, if you're not here, you go off to college, you're going to have to do it on your own. So we do it together. They can film it. It's part of the curriculum, and register their songs on all 7 platforms that need to be registered, because if they get one hit, and that's the thing, like, you may not see anything as an artist, but you get that one hit, it'll bleed onto all the others, because you've done it right. And if you, like, let's say you get one hit that hits, 100,000, and you got popularity through whatever, TikTok or whatever, eventually it'll be like, okay, what else does this person have? And if they start bleeding into that and you don't have them registered, then you won't make that money. So at this point, I feel like I can still do the voice lessons, and I still do. And so you can call me a vocal coach, but the general is because of, like, even downtown Dallas. I mean, like, that's something that I didn't even know what I was getting into. I remember Homegrown Fest. Mm-hmm. They were operating in that same space. And back in, I think it was like 2012, 2011, I was like, I really want to get involved with them. And I even shot them an email like, hey, how can I get involved? Never heard back. And I said, you know what? I want to be involved with something like this. Then I went to UTA, and in the jazz big band, we went and performed at the festival that they have, I think Main Street Festival in Fort Worth. I think that's what it's called.
Okay, yeah.
So it's like they take up all of Main Street, and there's like several stages. And I'm like, why don't we have something like that in Dallas? This was in 2012, and I was still in college. And I said, you know what? One day I want us to have that. And I didn't look for it. Frankie, FJ3 Productions, he had started the arts festival, and then he said, I was told that I needed to add music and it would grow. And I was like, hey, we got you. We can do that. And he's like, well, everybody's pointing to you. And I'm like, oh, well, thank you, because that's not like that wasn't our intention. But I think when you're giving a lot to the community and popping up everywhere, and people see that you have the influence of, like, connecting with a lot of artists, they're like, he can probably do it. And I told my team, I was like, hey, we're doing this, figure it out.
Right. And this being the Downtown Dallas Arts and Music Festival. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack with you, sir.
Thank you.
That was like a nice overview.
Yeah, it was.
So let's dig into some of that. First question, are you a Dallas kid or?
So, no, I'm not. But I've been here since I was 17.
Okay.
So the minute that I graduated, like, I calculated exactly. I went to summer schools, because back then you can do like dual, what is that? Dual credits.
Oh, right.
So from 8th grade till high school, I calculated, how can I get out of here?
Where'd you stay?
Del Rio, Texas.
Okay.
And now looking back, obviously that's my family, and that's where I was. But I was like, I can't do what my dreams are here.
Yeah.
My uncles did music, and they were like the mariachis and the Tejano band for every event, from like Cinco de Mayo of the city to like quinceañeras and all of that. but it was a weekend thing for them. And I was like, I want to do arts and music. And actually, I was a little burnt out. And when I moved to Dallas at 17, I went to acting school. And so I did my associates first with acting, and I auditioned for the Selena film like six times. So I met the dad, I met the producers, and I lost it out of technicality because I was in SAG-AFTRA. Yeah,
that's a bummer.
Yeah, and I went up with this guy against like for Walker Texas Ranger and a lot of other things that required that. The same guy, we would walk in, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm done. Like, I'm like, you got me already. But I couldn't become SAG-AFTRA in Dallas. It's a right to work state. I had more work, you know, back then. And then, that industry just kind of wasn't what I wanted to do. So I went back to my first love, which is music, and decided to just take piano at, Brookhaven College. Just took piano. And by that time, I had already toured with some people, and they found out that I could sing, but I was just taking piano. And the piano director said, you should audition for the vocal jazz. And I was like, man, so the director of Elaine Gardner Morales, she's like, can you sing an art song? And I'm like, what's an art song? I don't even know what that is. An art song is a classical song that's either in French or, Italian or something.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know any of those. And they're like, well, what can you sing? And I'm like, Amazing Grace, I guess. So she's like, okay, sing it. She goes, can you sing Happy Birthday? And I was like, sure. So I sang Happy Birthday in my R&B style, whatever. I sang jazz back then. And then she goes, can you just sing it straight? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, do it. And before I knew it, she's like, okay, you're in. The very first semester, she submitted me into the North Texas Jazz Festival, and they gave me the top all-star jazz vocalist of the nation. So after that, I was like, I came back, and they're like, you don't have to pay for college, and and I didn't end up going to UNT because UNT's like, we'll take you, but you guys start back at square one. I already had 2 years of college.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. And UTA was like, we'll take you where you're at. I was like, no brainer.
Yeah.
Ended up, all my teachers were coming from UNT and traveling as adjuncts, so I had the same quality teaching. So
nice,
but it was a journey. It was different.
Yeah. So so you started out like music was going to be acting, but like music was your first love, basically.
6 years old, picked up guitar. 4th grade, I picked up violin. And I only picked the violin because I wanted to shred on the guitar. So I knew like all the Metallica, Guns N' Roses solos, but I wanted to be faster. So I was like, in my brain, I'm like, okay, if I do violin, it's probably going to make me a better guitarist. And it did.
Okay.
Education-wise, if you go through the system, you don't really do guitar in any band or piano in any band. So being from a border town, it was very difficult because you had like, my first guitar teacher was from the Catholic church, and she's like, this is a G, and by the time 3 months came, I had learned all the chords. I went ahead, and then I learned a lot of solos, and she's like, he's outgrown me. And then I was like, where do I go now? There was no one back then. So I took violin and learned a little bit more formal music. So that was my first love, and I did violin all the way till I was a senior.
Were you into jazz before you got to that?
I didn't even know jazz existed until I moved to Dallas, Texas.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I learned all the standards as I went. But it was a journey because I didn't even know there were modes. I didn't know there were, different scales and things like that. And as I was going, and even when I went into college, I didn't even know that I had to learn piano. And so I spent most of my college years learning piano, which was not my instrument, but because when you go through school, whether you're a drummer, violinist, singer, whatever, you still have to learn piano.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't anybody tell me this? What's going on, bro?
Yeah, it's like a foundational instrument.
Yeah.
So, and you were gigging in Dallas?
I was. Through college, I did a lot of country club gigs, and I did start doing jazz. Mm-hmm. UNT hired me for an event, and I'm like, y'all have jazz? It's like, well, we're recommended you, and they paid me for a gig, and I was like, well, okay, I'll do it. Did stuff for the Farmers Branch Country Club. Mockingbird Station used to have like a little stage up on top, and I did a couple of winter gigs there. And I had my own little jazz band going. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm thinking about starting it again, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's one genre I haven't been exposed to much here. I mean, a little bit at Revelers Hall. I have
Yeah,
not
for
been to
sure.
the Balcony Club. I know that happens there. But that's interesting.
Well, and the reason I ran the Revelers Hall is that a lot of my alumni or colleagues, I go there, Revelers, and I go to La Reunion. La Reunion. There's another one down the street on
Okay.
Ed Bishop, and they have jazz as well. A lot of my colleagues are playing there, and they're like, "Hey, man, like you stop." And then we went to the Dallas Entertainment Awards, and I presented there with on the stage, and they're like, "You're in the middle of all this. What happened to the singing?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "I just got into the business side,
Yeah.
man." And they're like, "No, you should sing." Like we're exact. I mean, I think I did pretty well singing. I just kind of let it veer off into
Yeah.
other things because, sadly enough, I think in Dallas, because we weren't at the place that we're growing into now, you couldn't just sing. You had to do teach or something else. And I think, I think maybe in the next 5 years that may change. Because I see what the Dallas Music Office is doing, which we're part of. And other entities like that are setting platforms where musicians can make money and maybe just do what they dream of.
Yeah, that's
cool.
the goal for
for
a
Dallas.
lot of, yeah, absolutely. Let's. Oh, okay. Well, I guess before we get to creative, so Septine Entertainment Group. Tell me about that.
So while I was in college, my business partner went and answered a Craigslist ad, and they were looking for producers. So he went and he was hired as a producer, but also was like, hey, what we really need is people that teach voice or teach songwriting or teach production. And he's like, well, I can do that. And he was just out of college. So it was, coming out of college, you're getting paid like $30-$40 a month. I mean, an hour. It was good. So I was still in college, and he's like, hey, we need more people. You want to come? And I was like, sure. And so the history of that place is that the teacher, that's the owner, Linda, she's taught like Beyonce when they were little, Demi Lovato, Selena Gomez, and she's just gotten a strategy of how to teach young people. And so when we went there, I actually got hired to run a music camp for kids. I hated it.
Why?
Well, it's just, I feel like I was thrown into the mix, and I didn't have the training to deal with like 20 kids. I had to figure it out, and I did, and I always will. But at that time, it was just a little daunting, I guess, because I was like in college, and here are 20 kids that are like all over the place, and I have to teach them guitar, or I have to teach them songwriting. After that, I got hired because some of those kids turned into my vocal students. And then being there and still going to college, my last semester, she was like, I really need you to oversee the master program, which were out of 250 kids, that was like the top 25, which still to this day, some of those are still in the music industry and now are either executives or running in labels. And during that season, I got to connect with a New York company that was over Kids Bop. And the manager of the office was like, hey, they keep emailing, but Linda's really busy. And you're the person that knows this place like inside out. Can you please talk to them? And so I did. And we reached out to them, or I reached out to them, connected, told them what we do. They're like, hey, we're ready to come. We've got funds. We need a place where we can do choreography. We can train. We can, record and all the things. So I walked into her office and I was like, hey, this is a big kids brand. You should probably respond because it's good for your company. And she did and locked it down. And then we started working with them. So the first ever production, I guess, live production where they had kids that actually performed. Because before that, it was females with young voices that were recording all the albums.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, until this particular event, they got kids, and they were going to have them lip sync to the women's voices. And I'm like, this doesn't match. So they wanted them to sing live, but it didn't sound like the album. I was like, no, let's record them and let's put them as their actual voices. So worked with New York City and worked with a choreographer, put the show together, and then recorded them all. So overnight I would melodyne and fix their voices. And in the morning I would make sure that I was training them along with Linda and all the people that were involved. Jonathan was involved, my business partner. And so the very first Kids Bop Kid tour was out of Dallas, and I got to be part of that through Linda Septian and, Septian Entertainment Group.
Cool.
But it was I guess it's like history because like their brand exploded quite a bit after they added the live show.
Yeah.
And so Sally, that was over it, she was like the vice president of tour and operations, and I became friends with the young lady that was just buying like the snacks and stuff and like the runner. Her name was Amanda. And Amanda and I became good friends. And then when Sally left, she became the tour manager of tour and operations. And so now I have a really good friend that's an executive. And so she kept me on as a vocal coach to help coach them when they would come in town. And I coached some of those because the second batch, some of the kids were from Dallas. So I coached them now that I was at another place. I ended up leaving Septian Entertainment Group because Kids Bop asked if I could tour with them, and my boss said, hey, I really need you to oversee this program. And so I didn't have that opportunity. So I kind of felt like I had capped, and I said, I think it's time for me to move forward.
Okay.
And nothing on Linda. I love Linda. She still will be my very first music business mentor and everything. Like, even to this day, I still talk to her when we see each other. He's like, hey, all hugs. But I kind of knew in my heart that it was time to go forward and do my thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that when the Creatives Factory, or was it C Factory back then, started? Or
So C Factory started way before I even was involved with Linda.
Oh.
C Factory started in 2000. I wasn't involved with Linda until 2009, maybe 2010. And so when we talked to her, it was like, hey, my business partner and I both have this company. If it doesn't interfere, we won't never take your students. We'll never take any of your artists. But we have this production house. And she was cool with it. We operated, with a lot of respect and, clear lines. But yeah, we had already had like 10 years in the mix with recording artists, which didn't really conflict because the production that we did at Septian was for the artists that we trained. So it was kind of like an in-house thing. And then we had our own artists that were looking for us from, the community. That was C Factory. C Factory turned into the Creatives Factory over COVID.
okay.
And right before COVID, we had a meeting and said, what is our goals? And I said, I felt like C Factory name was attracting or drawing more of the hip hop community, which I love the hip hop community, but I didn't want to be just that.
Right.
So we changed the name to the Creatives Factory because I felt like it kind of opened up a broader invite to different styles and genres and, people. So we already had that company, John and I, since 2000, 2001.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So the Creatives Factory, it's like a top to bottom production for music, or how would you describe it?
So it's a one-stop shop for the independent artists.
Okay.
And if Los Angeles would touch a finger in Dallas, it would be of how to do business and music business correctly. It would be at the Creatives Factory. That's the best way.
Okay.
So like artist development happens there. Once artist development is, their next step, it grows into the next step, we can produce with you. Once we've got a couple of songs, we have a publishing company that we can represent your songs. But it's still independent. Like, we're not over you as a record label. We'll just help you along the way. Just recently, we added a distribution company. So we have our own distribution under the Orchard. We have our own distribution company. and we've connected with the Grammy, the whole Grammy system. So we're all part of the Grammy members. So that opened up a whole network and, assistance, I guess you could say, of what we don't know to grow into. We do have a small record label, but we don't advertise it, and it's handpicked, artist picked, people that we've been developing for like at least 4 or 5 years. Those are the ones on it. But we're for the independent artists. So it's like, if you want to learn how to run your business, we're here for you. Does it cost money? Absolutely. And then we try to do things that are like, group activities, so it's less expensive. And then we try to do stuff with like, the Dallas Music Office and Desi and, Deep Ellum Foundation, where we give away talks. We've spoken at SMU, at UNT, with Art Boost, a lot of people that are trying to help the community. They've invited us to talk about, music business and, potholes that they can encounter. We try to give back,
Yeah.
I think part of what we do, at the core of what we do, is being teachers, and the one-on-one model it's still there, and a lot of people want it, but we're also developing like, an app and things like that, so that it can be a lower cost for those that want to still have access to us, but not they can't afford it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it, how does that part work? You are selecting the artists that you work with from, like, you're auditioning them, or how does that part happen?
So we believe that anybody can be developed.
Okay.
So anywhere we go and speak, we always tell them what we do. And then 4 or 5 people will reach out and say, okay, let's set up a meeting. What are your goals? Well, I want to be a better singer, or I want to eventually release songs. Okay, well, let me hear what you got right now. And then an evaluation's at hand. Once we sat down, okay, like, hey, you probably need a couple of voice lessons, or hey, your songs need a little bit of attention. You're kind of amateurish. And then we set a pathway. Then the artist is able to say, okay, I'm willing to invest in myself this much. If not, hey, here's some resources, and go and YouTube it, and there's books, and you can do that way too. Come back when you're ready. If your songs are good enough and we think that we can represent them and find them a home, then we'll take them in. But that evaluation, we just kind of say, okay, this is where you're at, and this is what, in our experience of working with a lot of artists, these are the potholes and what you should give attention. We can help you. If money's an issue, then here are some pathways outside of us that you can do.
Okay. So basically anybody that's seriously pursuing a career at any level can come out to you, and then you can evaluate where they're at and what they would need to get to the next level. Okay.
Yes. And we're not a music school.
Right.
We do train people, but it's not like, oh, I want to drop off my kid and you can come and do, whatever. We're not School of Rock. We're not even Septian. We want to attract serious artists that want to incubate and accelerate.
Right.
And a lot of the young people that know they want to do music, they know by 12, 13. It's like the kids that do soccer. Mm-hmm. They already know they want to play soccer, so they put them in, whatever FC,
Right.
That's what I kind of like to look at us. Like, we are a concentration for young people that want to do music and do music pop and do it correctly with the music industry.
So you're looking more for like younger artists that are on their way up, or any ages?
No. I have a 50-year-old.
Okay.
And she's amazing. She's written some songs. I think since she's older, she can express herself way better. But I give her voice lessons and guitar lessons. And then we wrote a song called Military Mama that got a lot of attention from the news and from the military moms and the military in general. And her name's Stacy Wynette, and she started with me a year ago. And I think a young artist is someone that's starting off, not age-wise, but this is my first steps. So,
okay.
It's, when I say young artists or younger artists, it's someone that's learning about the experience that's happening, not necessarily an age thing. Mm-hmm. So whether you're 40, 50, or 10 or 11, you're starting off.
Right.
That's a young,
gotcha,
budding artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If someone came in and they were like ready to pop, Is that something that you're interested in also, or
When you say pop,
like they give you some songs and you're like, I can hear this on the radio right now?
yeah,
Like, are you taking those kind of people too, or that's not
definitely.
Really? Okay.
There's levels of artist development. There's the technical artist development, and then there's the online or awareness of that artist, whether it's radio or television. That's another level of artist development. So when we sit down, we say, okay, like, you're amazing. Where are you social media wise? And a lot of times that's where they miss.
I see.
And so it's like, okay, I can't really walk you into any of my friends if you're got 1,000 followers. As beautiful, as great as you are, they'll think I'm a clown, right? Because I think if people like you, they're gonna like you. It's your job, and I've said this to them. I was like, you guys built this. The whole millennials, Gen Z, y'all built this monster. Yeah. Now you gotta lie in that bed, buddy. Like, our generation wasn't that, and we played by those rules. I wish I didn't have to sit here and say you don't have to play by the rules of social media, but that's what you guys built.
Yep.
And now it's part of the mix, and to ignore it now with record labels that exist, they're like, it's kind of a data point where it's like, well, why don't people like them, or why aren't they following them? It's like, well, they're not consistent, or they just got a personality that doesn't flow with the people they want to attract. And that's a science in itself. So, depending on where they're at, if their music is great and they're like on the verge, I got to see that next step of where are you social media wise and your numbers, because that will reflect on your Spotify and your Apple. And at the end of the day, people want that. I have data points of like, okay, they're popular in Chicago, they're popular in New York. But if you got 1,000, then you're not really popular.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I have 2,000 on my Instagram. But
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if your producer has more than you, that's probably a challenge.
That's funny. I'm sure there's other situations that are doing something like you're doing. I don't know about in Dallas. I mean, I actually come to think of it, like for me, not looking for this kind of stuff, being a musician at this point, I don't know anything quite like this here. And
we're very unique because we're very involved in the community, and I think places like ours that are in Dallas, and I know a couple, they're not. And so it's like the reason that we're involved in Downtown Dallas Arts and Music Festival is because we are in the community and we give to the community. And as much as, other people are like, well, we want to make money. I'm like, well, yes, but that'll come because a lot of people in the community don't have those funds. There has to be a way that both exist. You can't just, okay, I'm exclusive to the people that have money. Like, what kind of organization would you be to help artists and local artists if you only, and nothing on any of the other businesses, but I think why we don't hear a lot about those businesses that are like us is because they're very a bubble, and they don't get as involved in the community as we have.
Yeah.
And the first thing that we started with, to give back was we have a songwriter night every last Wednesday of the month, and it's free. We do have 5 spots that I call Jump the Line, and I've designed a $20 charge because I want people that are working or that are coming from Fort Worth that can't come and sit in line to have a secure spot. It started at 5, but they were grabbing them, like the people that could actually sit in line. I'm like, no, this is not for you guys. Can you guys, make space? And they wouldn't. So I went up to 10. They would still snag them. I'm like, okay, it's gonna keep going up until I see that the normal people can't get it, and the people that are serious about their craft and are maybe in Fort Worth or working till 7, not going to be able to sit in a line to get into the mix, can have those spots. And so it landed like at a $20 spot, and it's always someone new and someone that says, okay, I think I've got this. We record that night. We give you the stems for free. You own the masters. And if you want to put on, your camera, we put a pod there. If you want to bring a videographer, you can record it. We have lights and vibes, and you can YouTube it. And there's only been one artist And I tell them, I was like, if you practiced every month and came here and recorded 2 songs, in 6 months you would have an album that's a live album.
Right.
Even if you couldn't afford to
Yeah.
record this, bro. Like, this is a free resource for you. And only one artist has taken those stems and released a video and put it on Spotify in these past 4 years.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's free, man. Like, you own the masters, and you can release this unless you want to pay more. But like, it's a live album. We all want live albums from our artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where it was birthed, to give back. And then we have adjacent like companies like the Love Mic, and then we have like Amplified Minds that we collaborate with and create unique spaces for. Like Amplified Minds, we have every once a month for musicians. We have a group, mental health, with Dr. Peter, and he was in the music industry, and he understands people, that are musicians. So it's these partnerships that we do that they don't make us money.
Right.
It's just giving back. And I think there's a principle to when you give, it's going to come back.
You're the executive director of the Downtown Dallas Arts and Music Festival. Tell us a little bit about that festival and like what you're doing with it.
So the festival itself started off with Frankie just as an arts festival. Frankie, he's got FG3 Productions. You can find him there. And that's the actual handle on Instagram. He is over a lot of art and art activations. Like if you've seen the mural on Field Street off of the Adolphus that's just got painted downtown, he was over that. And he's over right now. They're doing stuff at the farmers market where they're like doing a big painting, even that includes the ground and stuff. I think in preparation for FIFA.
Okay.
He had already done this for 2 years, and on the 3rd year, he commented. He's like, "Hey, everybody's pointing to you. Would you like to be involved?" Basically, you would raise your own money and make it happen. I'm like, okay.
What?
Yeah, it was. It's like he's like, we're building this from the ground up. And honestly, like I realized that having a festival, the first couple of years, and I've had mentors even within the city. There's a lady named Catherine Coyar. She was like, "Hey, this is your first year. Don't expect, with all the wisdom and knowledge that she's got, and she's no longer with Visit Dallas, but she gave me that advice. She's like, you just got to make it happen." And I'm like, okay. So how it played out is we ended up sponsoring the most of that. And then we got that year Harwood to get involved. They helped with the sponsorship. But it was a huge investment on our part to make this happen because we wanted every artist that was going to perform to get paid. And I already had artists at different, like the Block Party and other, Cottonwood and different things in Dallas. And I was like, I know what my artists get paid. We want to be just a little bit above that. And so we don't advertise that we pay our artists. And I want it to be that if they see this festival, they want to be involved because of the vibes and what it represents. And if you go to it, it's a whole different vibe. I don't know if you've ever been, but I've had a lot of people say it just feels different than most festivals. And maybe it's the location because it's downtown. Maybe it's because there's live painting and there's performances on both ends. But it does have a different vibe. It has a very family-friendly vibe. I mean, you see dogs walking around. It's like, and it's free. So
what part of downtown is it in?
It's right in front of the Statler at the Main Street Garden Park.
Gotcha.
So that was one of the reasons that we had to move it, because even if it rained 3 days before and not the day of, it was a mud puddle on the green, and we don't want to destroy our parks. So we had to move it to Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
But I oversee with my team, and not just the population of the stages, but the development of this whole thing. So this year I wanted panels. So I added us on Saturday a group of panelists from people that own businesses, producers, Amplified Minds, and companies and organizations that help artists, a whole lineup on Saturday of talks that will help emerging artists. This is also for emerging artists. There's nobody that's huge. It's like if you're Dallas famous, you're a good candidate for this this festival, because we want people that have put in the time, that have put in a sacrifice, and that you can see it like, hey, you know, one of the, again, I keep bringing up his name because I feel like he's done so much for the community, but Desi is a prime example of, I built something outside of me like Dallas Entertainment Awards. I helped the community with artist development camps. And I'm a performer that'll perform a DJ set. I'm an artist and I do covers. Like, I'm doing it all. And when you get to that level of operation, it's like you can't be ignored. You know, so he's a prime candidate for DDMF.
Yeah.
You know, and I like mixing in people at that level with younger ones that don't know what they're doing, they're left or they're right, and they can interact and talk and say like, hey, you got on this, but look at this other artist that's on here and look what they're doing. And this is the way to success in this community. And it's a really, I feel like, wholesome, but I also feel like it's an emerging artist. And one of the big things is that it has to be eclectic. It can't be all African American, all white, all Americana, Latin. When there are 5 of us sit down and we hear all these submissions, it's like, okay, we're this heavy. We need to balance it out. And you might be head to head with, hey man, I'm really good, but this one's always really good, but we're heavy on Americana. So we're going to try to tip it to a little bit of R&B or reggae, or, hey, we're missing this, we're missing that. Try to balance it out to have a very, I guess you could say, like, diverse.
Yeah.
Diverse.
Well, that's the Dallas music scene, so that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have jazz, we have reggae, we have DJs, we have it all.
Huh. Cool.
And that's part of that.
Yeah. Well, this is going to come out the week before, so you haven't missed it yet if you're listening to it in the first week it's out. After that, next year, right? So it seems like one of your, it's cool because like Desi's one of them, but there's not a lot of people out there that your focus is to educate the artist on how to be successful. And you've spoken, God, it seems like you've done a lot of talking at different events. Oh yeah. And like you're a Grammy member, you get to vote on. So tell us how that happens and what that looks like.
Oh man. Being in part of the Grammy member or Grammy system wasn't part of my agenda. We were just producing and going in production. But we have one guy that we do mastering with in Louisiana, and he, out of the blue, was like, "Hey, have you thought about becoming a voting member?" And I'm like, "Not even a little bit." And they're like, he's like, he had mastered a song that I had done with a Latin artist, and it had like 121 million on SoundCloud. So he ordered a plaque, and he's like, "Man, you've done some substantial numbers, like independent. Like, I think you'd be a great candidate." He's like, "I'm going to submit you because you have to be invited, or you have to be kind of nominated by somebody already in there."
Right.
And so I talked to my business partner. I was like, "Hey, this is happening." He's like, I can do that too. And I said, he's like, "Why don't we make it this year? All of a sudden, like all of us, if we can get in, that we can do it." And I'm like, "Okay, let's try it." So we have a lot of people that are around us that are already members. And so I had to just find one more person, which is my mentor. His name's Amin Imam, and he does a lot of film and television, and he's a producer, great human. And I said, "Hey, this guy is going to submit me. Can I get the second nomination from you?" He's like, "Well, just make sure you have the requirements, because you have to have, like, you know, people write articles about you and stuff." And I was like, "Okay, let me check this out. You have to have something like 2 articles. You have to have X number of productions, and they have to be in English, because I do a lot of Spanish too." And I was like, "Well, let me see before you even waste a vote on me." And we all had what was required. And I was like, "Okay, well, this seems like it's easy enough. Like, if I have to go fishing for stuff, I'm like, it's not the time."
Sure.
And I wasn't looking for it. It just fell on my lap. And so Tommy Granville from Louisiana was the one that said, "Hey," and he does a lot of film, and he does a lot of works on a lot of music from a lot of like Grammy members and like artists that are bigger. and he's the one that kind of sparked that in us, and we followed through. Both of us had ample amount of coverage on, like, any stories or anything, and where your name is actually shown, and then our website and everything, and they accepted us, and so we got in.
Nice.
But it wasn't something like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna be part of. I think it was
Yeah.
just the natural and the logical next step to do, and it naturally just happened by itself.
Right.
And now we can, like, the cool part is that once you're in there, like, you get a lot of people from everywhere reaching out to you and inviting you, and you have a network that automatically overnight you didn't have. And because everybody wants to help of that vote, so now I can vote for yours and you can vote for mine, and that really expanded our network. So, like, if I go to LA or New York or anywhere, San Francisco, if I go to Seattle, there's always someone that because we're both in the Grammys, they would accept a meeting with us and just go to that next step. But we also get to nominate songs.
Yeah.
So obviously it has to make sense.
Sure.
If it doesn't make sense, then I'm gonna put in, like, someone that has 200 followers and 2 plays. Like,
Yeah.
they're gonna think I'm crazy. But if it makes sense, we can nominate and get our system and our network to say, like, hey, let's vote for this person, and try to move mountains to get at least that Grammy nomination.
Right. Have you been successful with any?
This is our first year.
Okay,
so
you just started.
We missed, like, a lot of the releases we did were not in the window frame, but this year we're gonna submit because we missed the time. It's got a weird time frame.
Okay.
So a lot of stuff that we had already released had already happened, and it
Didn't qualify. Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
But
That
we
is
got
cool,
to vote,
though.
and it was cool because it's like, so going back, it was really cool to watch one of my former students, and I was her first vocal coach, young lady, Lara Raj, and she's in Cat's Eye. So I got to actually vote for Cat's Eye because, I'm in the members, and I mean, it was just it's a milestone for me to be able to click that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That was super cool. And
For sure.
I can't believe that I didn't know you better, because, like, it seems like I'm working with a lot of people that you work with, and it's just you're Dallas is lucky to have you with your
Thank
attitude.
you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Getting near the end, here's a question. What's Dallas missing in this equation?
I think what it's missing is it's acknowledging right now is the education to the industry in itself. I think a lot of artists are just moving, and
Right.
and
Leaving.
I've had artists that are rappers or some type of artistry that you can find like a YouTube link to, and then they're just putting stuff out and becoming popular. But at the end, they can't say they own that song, and that's gonna eventually come and bite that person in the butt because a record label wants to know, do you own your music? And you can't say yes if you're not getting licenses, if you're not getting, written permission of those producers. A lot of the times that I speak at different places, it's in the education of music business and how to move with split sheets and how to have those conversations. And I think it's moving in that direction. It's normal in Nashville, it's normal in LA and New York to end a session and say, hey, let's figure out the split sheets right now before we leave.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's very normal. Here it's almost like, who's going to talk about it? And then they leave, and it's like, you're going to have to try to remember that, like, 6 months later. I don't know. I think people are just, like, scared to say it. And then someone in the group will be like, what's a split sheet? And then you have to explain it to them, but I don't know how to explain it correctly. So it's like, if the temperature is not right with everybody in the room and there's not someone strong enough to be able to explain that, it's like almost like a faux pas to talk about it.
Oh,
and
weird.
so
Okay.
it's very weird. But as we speak more about it, and even like, the stuff here at the foundation or at, SMU with Art Boost or anywhere, people are becoming at least a little more aware and looking it up because we have resources to look at all of it.
Yeah.
Man. It's like you have no excuses anymore.
Yeah.
I think that was our biggest and has been our biggest hole, because I've seen, and I think I've even been guilty of it as a young producer, to say, I own these masters, but no, I paid you. yeah, but they're on my computer. That doesn't matter. And that's just lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then there's a fight, and then there's a fallout, and then nothing happens with that. And then this person, the artist, is saying that the producer's at fault, producer's saying that they're, and then it just gets weird. And a lot of people tread with fear, you know, and that's one of the things that artists have told me. Like, yeah, my first 3 songs, I can't even get to them. The producer won't respond to me or anything.
Oh, jeez.
And that treading like that and not knowing who to go to is a big, crevice in this industry in Dallas. So as we educate more and tell people more, I think it forces the community to get educated, because the community between each other is there. Like, I've seen artists support each other, and that's already there. It's just the business side that I feel like needs to be built up and
Right.
very, very clear, so that we can move and put out great music. And my business mentors, even outside of music, have always been like, hey, man, here's an NDA. Like, okay, cool. He's like, I don't want to lose you as a friend. I want to make sure that everything's written down.
Yeah.
So it's only in like the music that it's weird to open up a contract. Like,
Right.
it's like, if you
Yeah.
want to keep your friend, that's, kind of unspoken rule is like, if you want to keep your friend in business, make sure your contracts are intact.
Yeah. That's
it's
good
true.
advice. There's a lot of big bands that broke up because of fights. And
Yeah.
I think Andy Summers is suing Sting right now.
And I thought this, well, I understood this, and it's like, there's none of
Yeah.
that. Like, what is right here?
Yeah.
What's written?
Yeah, in fact, it's funny because I had another. I won't name who, but it was a guest, and he's not the primary songwriter a lot of the times, and he's like, oh God, there's probably years of stuff that I'm on that I should have gotten something for. It's too late now, So,
Yeah.
good advice. What last question from you? Like, what's next for the Dallas music scene? Like, what's the next evolutional step?
Man, part of this organization called the Dallas Creative Engine, that is headed up by the Dallas College, and it's kind of like all the people that are doing things from the DMA to Meyerson, head of all those places, and they want to make a big signature event. So can't talk about it much yet, but that's at the forefront. Which when I talk about what type of event, it's like what South by Southwest used to be, really big. That's on the verge of what's happening in Dallas. Obviously, more recently is FIFA. A lot of the musicians, and I think they still need musicians. So I would figure out on the FIFA website on reaching out to some of those people that they need populating some stages, because it's like a literally all-day event for like 45 days.
Huh.
So I'm sure that a lot of artists can't cover.
I didn't even know about that, so that's something good. That's good information.
It's a big festival happening at Fair Park, and all of the cities that have are host cities, they have this going on. So there's some kind of big festival for 45 days. People that can't go to AT&T for whatever reason, like no more tickets or the cost, they watch it on a screen, and then there's festival style food and art and crafts and vendors and music happening for 45 days. Downtown Dallas Inc., if you're familiar with them, will be on Tuesday nights from June and July. Actually, the Creators Factory is populating the stage for Tuesday nights during FIFA. And that there's a lot of activations happening in the city because of FIFA, because there's a lot of foreigners that will be here. And the city of Dallas had a big meeting of this is the time frame. These are the countries that are going to come here and do what you wish with that information, And so based on what they told us, like, okay, we want to go this type of music heavy or this type of food heavy or advertisements or whatever. But it's happening for the next, it's starting in July, all the way, or June and July.
Right.
For 6 weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
Hopefully, hopefully a lot of us get some extra work out of that.
I know. But riding waves of things like that is where I think a I don't know if you guys know Christina. I think she might have been on the show.
Oh yeah, Christina Hart.
Christina Hart
Yeah.
is creating that momentum of more exposure for artists. We love to support her, and we're part of the Dallas Music Office. And I see her being at the forefront of all of these things that I'm mentioning. She's kind of like the
She's
spearhead.
amazing. Yep.
Yeah, and she's so sweet, super sweet soul, and great person to have in that corner. 'Cause
Definitely.
she'll
Yeah, she really
get it unlocked.
Yeah, she gets stuff done for sure. Christian, this has been great. I guess this is the last question. How can an artist, if they want to try to be a part of your program at the Creatives Factory, what do they do?
I think the easiest way is just go to our website and hit the contact button, www.thecreativesfactory.com. We're good on Instagram as well. On Instagram, it's at Creatives Factory, which is a lot of people can't find us because they put the Creatives Factory, but it's Creatives with an S Factory.
We'll have links too. So.
Yeah, and just reach out. We're very active. There's about 4 of us that oversee the Instagram, and like 3 of us that oversee any of those contact comments or reach out.
Right. And I remember because I was with you on that panel, you mentioned that people submitting, there's a small fee. And the reason is because if you didn't, you would like never have any time to do anything else. But for those out there that are like, I don't know, I say spend the money on yourself, invest in yourself. Because if you want to get to the next level, this is a huge resource in town that can help you do that. So
thank you. The fee that I talked about at that panel was for DDAMF.
Oh,
but you can set up a consultation for about $150. But if it's just a talk, we'll talk to you anytime.
Okay.
Buy us coffee. We'll go out and have coffee.
Okay.
But if it's like a formal, like, hey, I want you to evaluate me, then it's probably an hour and a half of our time.
Okay.
But normally we're accessible, man. We're like, we love people. We love to elevate the arts. If it's a very informal talk, we usually go to lunch with our artists and like, hey, let me buy it. Cool, fine. Sometimes I pay for my artists if they can't afford it, whatever.
Right.
If it's more of a friendly talk and just like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, I'll usually say, let's have a formal evaluation where I literally spend time with you. But I think a lot of artists need to understand that the first investor has to be you. When you do that and you respect people like yourself that go do photography or videography, and you honor them, they will honor you. And it's like what you honor will also honor you. Sometimes a lot of these artists are like, no, I want free stuff, or why should I have to pay for that? And I'm like, that's why you're at where you're at. Like, this is a business.
Yep.
And a lot of people, I just love the art. That's cool. And as a hobby, I love that for you. But if you want to get bigger, eventually you have to deal with business, because no record label is going to sign you. And if they do, you're going to be taken for a ride.
Yeah.
You have to know the business.
Yeah.
And it starts off with like, okay, if I can afford this photographer, okay, that's what you pay. And if I can't afford him, but he's really good, save up some money. Don't go to Starbucks. Like fast a little bit.
Exactly.
Don't need one of those hamburgers on,
one less shot or whatever it is. Yeah.
Because a lot of people be partying and they spend like $7 or $8 on their drinks, $10, $12. But you can't save money to go and invest.
Anyway, Christian, thank you so much for coming down, and we'll be keeping our eye on all your stuff and your artists. Yeah.
Appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank Christian for joining us. You can reach out to him at the Creatives Factory. Links are in the show notes. And don't miss the Downtown Dallas Arts and Music Festival Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record here. Theme song Unstoppable by Salim Narala. And the outro is The Place to Be by Electric Ants. Thanks again to the Mullen & Mullen Music Project for their support. Like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And we'll see you next week.